So this is what happened to us on Saturday, July 15th in the woods. I'm going to preface by saying I know I'm posting this on a Bigfoot page that we run, Big Sky Bigfoot. We are not claiming for it to be Bigfoot. We are not claiming anything because we don't know.
Absolutely don't know. But before we really dive into the story, we need to give a background of the area. We're 20 miles off of the main highway. We're roughly 20 miles from a major reservoir that has had Bigfoot sightings in the past. Mm-hmm. And notably at the last conference we attended for the Big Sky Bigfoot conference, we had some really good actual encounters from historical aspects from that lake.
From local people in the community that had come forward. It wasn't on any databases, forums, just locals that had had experiences in their lifetime.
And we were able to actually collaborate. We were actually able to make it come forward, happen, figure out, yes, this is an actual occurrence, because the reaction these people gave telling their story was that much more emphasized. Mm-hmm. I mean, the detail, the way they talked, the cautiousness and all that's there. Mm-hmm. The area we are up, we are one ridge over and 20 miles, like I said, but the canyon area is maybe at its widest point, 2 miles wide, point to point. We're at 6,000 feet, mind you, and you can go from 6,000 feet to 6,800 feet in less than a quarter mile in some spots due to the terrain.
It's very steep, very rugged. It is easily traversed. The road is very well maintained.
Yes.
However, that doesn't negate the fact that we are in Montana, we are high mountain area, and it was a really remote location. It took us an hour from the main highway to get to camp.
So, with that being said, elevation here in Butte is 5,400 feet. Where we were at, it's 6,000. Mm-hmm. So, we're pretty close in relative elevation. There was good flowing creeks. There was a ton of water area. There was good cover. There's huckleberries. There's salmon berries out right now. The grasses are big, tall, green. So any animal is going to have a major food source this whole entire season.
Well, and one thing on that, our winter this year specifically, 2023, has been really, well, the end of it has been really harsh. We've been very wet, very cold. Snow has stayed. We still have snow on top of our ridges. The huckleberries are at least, what do we figure, 3 weeks back from where they normally are?
2.5, yeah.
2.5 to 3 weeks from where, when you can normally harvest the huckleberries, we are 2 to 3 weeks past that point at right now. So any of the hibernating bears are very hungry, looking for food. There are food sources, but they are not ripe yet.
So we're up, we're looking, we're taking pictures along the way. The reason why we went to this lake is a friend of ours had talked about being up there 3 years ago and found what has been classified as little feet.
Like a juvenile
about
Bigfoot.
Like that. Very small, but it has been looked at by some heavy professionals that do foot tracks, such as Meldrum and other people like that, and they have deemed it, yes, the impression, the way it's formed, it's barefoot, the splay of the toes, all of that is in line with a Bigfoot.
And these are personal friends of ours as well as respected individuals within said Bigfoot community.
One of the things, and so that was our interest, and one of the things we weren't expecting to have anything. We never go out in that aspect.
And we, this particular time, brought zero equipment with us. We didn't bring our thermals, night vision, literally nothing with us. We had our phones and that was basically it. We had
Yep.
this is our one night away from children all year that we get to spend out in the woods without kids, and we take advantage of that as personal time to just sit, be quiet. And we were very quiet. I mean, there were 10, 15, 20 minute stretches where we both were just reading our own books and just enjoying being in silence.
So we headed up the gulch, as they're called out here for most of the time, at about 4:30. That is about the time we hit it, and we started driving up from the main highway. Along the way, we were slowing down, passing traffic. I mean, a ton of traffic on this trail. And so we went up all the way up to the lake, looked at the lake. We tried fishing it, but there was nothing in the lake itself where we were.
If you were in a boat, you were catching fish,
Exactly.
but off the shore, it was too deep and too heavily populated.
The campground was already packed for the weekend, so we're like, okay, let's go down to the main road and try and find an off-road little cubby we could duck into.
Because we don't like camping around a bunch of people. We like to have our privacy.
So we come down the road, which is about 1.5 miles, 2 miles from the lakes to the workstation there. And we go about 1/4 mile south of the workstation on the road, find a nice little spot, pull in,
Sit camp.
look it up. We set up the tent. We set up our chairs where we're going to sit. Made a real small fire. Fire no bigger than that and that tall.
Just enough for smoke to keep the bugs away. And also to note, we are not in a burn restriction right now. Everything is very wet and we are not in red flag warnings, things like that. We checked that before we were ever going out into the woods just to make sure we were prepared.
So about 3.5, 4 hours go by. It gets to start being about that 10 o'clock, 10:15 time. We're in the twilight zone that you can still kind of see, but it's really starting to get dark. The sky hasn't
stars yet.
Yeah, the sky has not gone black.
It's that in between blue to like that white where the sun goes down, but the sky looks white for that 10-15 minutes, and then it goes that deep dark blue.
So 10:15, 10:20 rolls around, and the next thing we start hearing is this rumble.
It honestly sounded like thunder. We looked at each other and we said, there should not be thunder right now. Again, we had checked weather, and there was not a cloud, a drop, anything all day long. And we looked at each other and said, that's thunder. Where's thunder coming from?
As we said that's probably all 10, 15 seconds. Then we hear it again. And another 5, 10 seconds, we hear another one. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden,
from the same location.
Same area, same location. Mm-hmm. Then we start hearing them even closer together, more stacked up. About another 3. And then we don't hear anything. And then we get like 4 real soft rumbles, whatever the exact noise is. Mm-hmm. It literally sounded like thunder, but it was a rumble, the type thunder.
Like earth movement, rumbly, weird.
So
weird that it started and stopped.
And then we hear a couple more real loud ones, and we're like, my first immediate thought is, knowing the road we had just been on, somebody was going way too fast, blinded by the time of day, went off the road. Mm-hmm. So now in my head, I'm changing gears, and I'm going search and rescue. I'm in an immediate response situation. What gear do I have to go through and work with?
We need to go help. We need to go help.
Yes.
And so we doused our fire. We made sure that we could leave camp.
Yeah.
So that took a good probably 5 minutes. And I mean, we put probably 4 or 5 bottles of water into the fire. Fire was completely doused. We thought that this plays in a little bit. We had put all of our food back into our Jeep because we're in prime bear habitat, grizzly and black bear. And again, we're in the mountains of Montana. We wanted to make sure that we were as safe as possible because there's nothing worse than when you're going to rescue or help somebody, putting yourself in a dangerous situation. So we made sure to button up camp as best we could, while trying to consciously figure out how best to help somebody in the woods when there's just the two of us. Again, it's dark at this point.
No moon.
No moon. And our impression of what this could have been, one of our reasonable explanations was a car went over a cliff. And there's just the two of us, no cell coverage. We do have our Garmin InReach, so we have an SOS way to communicate.
Our phones are up to date enough that they have the satellite SOS signal to work off of for emergency calls.
So our thought was that, you know, he would go down and help as best he could. I would be on the phone with 911 as best I could, as well as our InReach, sending out an SOS beacon, things like that.
So we get everything in that we thought, and we take off, and we're driving back up to the lakes. That's more than likely where I thought the sound was coming from, and that is the worst part of the road.
That has the most cliff
Right.
area for somebody to have gone off the road.
So we get maybe halfway up to the lakes, and there's a car. Well, we passed it a little too quickly looking, but at that where we saw the car, instead of this, the ground had started to level out below the road.
And it was a car on the road. It was
Yeah.
a car that was looking to camp for the evening.
So turn around, go back to it. I get it, I park, get out, I walk up, and I just say, hey, sorry, I'm just concerned. There was a noise that sounded like somebody went off the road.
Very
Have you
loud.
heard or seen any weird lights or like something that is out of place from being up here in the dark?
Did somebody come flying down this road?
Right.
Again, it's late enough if somebody had been drinking all day, maybe was driving too fast for conditions, something like that. We were very concerned. It was a car that had rollen off the cliff.
Now, this gal didn't realize it until after I started talking to her. And what I did is I took a step back to give her reassurance. I wasn't there to do any harm.
Right.
But I just said, I am part of the Butte 1590 Search and Rescue. I am a concerned rescuer, first aid trained. I am just trying to help. She says, no, didn't see or hear anybody. I'm the only one right now along the road. I said,
Didn't
okay.
see any cars going up or down, even slowly.
Yeah.
She hadn't seen anybody. Just the campers similar to us parked off the road.
And us going by real
Right.
briefly and then coming back. So, say, all right, thank you. Get back in the Jeep, and we start heading back down towards our camp. After hearing that, my mind starts going, okay, what am I hearing?
Right.
Only two options that I really know of that would be moving rocks like that at that time of day is going to be a black bear or a grizzly bear.
Which at that point we assumed was rock movement.
Right. So as we drove back down, we got to just about down to the workstation, and I said, let's drive up the other side of the road and just see what's up there, which is heading south from where we were camping.
Past our camp, which was the only part of that road we had not driven, was
Right.
about a quarter mile past our camp.
So we drive down past, look at the camp, everything's fine, nothing's going on. Because the headlights did shine in there just
Yep.
enough to light it up.
Yep.
We go down to the next set of trailheads, which is about a half mile. And there's one car, but the car's been sitting there for a good couple days. The dust on it, you can tell it's been draped on it. Whether it's wind or maybe a small little rain cloud came through and put some drops on it. It's been there. Nobody's been
And it was an
touching
out-of-state
Yes.
car, so it likely was a hiker that was hiking in for a multi-day backcountry camp.
So we turn back around to go back to the camp spot, and in my mind, I'm thinking we're in the middle of good grass that bears will eat. We're in the middle of a huckleberry patch, ripe or not, bears will be in it looking for the ripe. And I just said,
And there's a stream.
yeah,
That's the
and
other
there's
thing.
water.
And it's water that is shallow and clear. Shallow and clear and honestly safe enough. I would put either of our children, 7-year-old and a
Yeah.
4-year-old, let them play, and I would just sit on the bank. I mean, it was no bigger than 1.5 feet wide at its widest. I would have sat on a chair and let them play. It was very calm. It would be perfect to sit there and drink, look for frogs.
Yeah.
It's prime, perfect animal space.
Seeing the food sources around, I didn't feel comfortable staying the night if it truly is a bear, because we're giving off scent. We're not moving. We become a prey item at that point in time in the dark.
So they knew we were going home at that point.
So we pull in. I pull as close up to the tent as I can. High beams on. And I get out and I start breaking the tent down because our tent has 3 poles. So 2 come over this way and arch, and then we have a center beam. It's a half dome tent.
It's a perfect little 2-man tent.
Yep. Perfect, great. So I start breaking it apart, and Katie starts grabbing her chair.
And my chair is a folding chair that has like a little insulation on one side, a little pocket for like a magazine on the other. It's kind of a nice camp chair. And what I didn't realize when we were in the middle of putting all of our food away, I had left an open, half-eaten chocolate bar in the insulated portion of my camp chair. Being in prime bear country, that is a major, major no-no to have any food whatsoever left out if you're not going to be in attendance of where you're at. And we were gone 30 minutes probably from when we left camp to returning to camp, 25 to 30 minutes.
Max.
But still enough time for a bear, if there was a bear in the area, it would have been in camp and would have been destroying my chair, or my chair would have been destroyed, and nothing was touched. Not a single thing was touched on this chair. So, and I didn't realize it until I was I had folded it up and put it into the Jeep, back of the Jeep. And I came around the driver's side of the Jeep to tell him, hey, I screwed up, my bad. This is what happened.
So
the only word I got out was, hey.
So I slid the side that would be the passenger side of the Jeep. I slid it halfway off the rod, walked around to the other side, so I'm on the passenger side of the driver's side of the tent, driver's side of the Jeep, and I start breaking it apart. But at that time, all of a sudden, I felt like I had a set of eyes on me. And at that time, Katie had just grabbed her chair, walked by, and walked in front of the driver's side headlight. And I felt like I had a pair of eyes. So if I'm sitting here at the tent, taking it apart, it'd be right about where the camera was. And at about 30 feet away. I all of a sudden feel like I have a set of eyes that are watching me. And I look up, and just as Katie passes in front of that headlight, the tree where I'm looking darkens just enough due to her shadow, but I see something poking out by about that much from the side of it. And I'm like, what the? Immediate, like, you're not welcome. I am here. I can put you down. I immediately draw my 45 because I'm thinking I'm looking at a bear at 30 feet. And I know we just been here, we had food out, so scent is strong still in that area. I'm thinking I've got a bear that is looking at me and coming at me. So I go full defensive mode, but I had this urgent feeling of a threat, and I put my hand down like this behind me so Katie can see it, and typically
so that I can stop. And
telling her to stop and stay back.
Which has been our cue for 12 years. Because
I don't need anybody in front of me at this point, because if I'm going to start shooting, that magazine's going to be emptied out. And that's a 10-round mag, a 45 caliber going down range. But as soon as I saw it, it was gone. It just, whatever it was, like, almost took a step back and it disappeared into the shadow.
The truly weird thing about all of this is we didn't hear anything.
No noise.
Didn't smell anything. A bear a bear
always has
breathes.
a scent.
Well, and it always breathes through its nose. So you really hear it. You really hear the huffing. There was nothing.
Black bear with looking at food would have been huffing and puffing, would have gotten defensive. Grizzly automatic would have gone into defensive mode and the offensive mode, and come at us. No noise, no birds, no nothing.
Which that was odd too.
Yes, but the part is so I get the poles off. She starts grabbing them. I just breaking them down, grabbing to her, say, get them in. And so she goes back, and I thought I heard something or saw something back over there. So I redrew again, not understanding if I'm seeing or if my mind's playing tricks on me. Mm-hmm. So I redrew, and she comes back around, and she's like, and I just said, grab my chair, get it in now. Mm-hmm. We're just going to scoop up the tent, throw it in, and we'll deal with it in the morning at your mom and dad's.
We literally had 2 sleeping bags, 2 pillows, 2 foam mats zipped into the tent, and we had the poles already taken out. We each grabbed a corner of the tent, folded everything in half, and shoved it into the Jeep.
Yeah.
And one thing I have to say is we've been together over 12 years. We have countless hours in the woods. We have countless hours camping. We both hunt. He's on search and rescue. I support his search and rescue efforts as best I can as a civilian. I've grown up hiking. You've grown up hiking, being in the front. Like, there's not much that freaks us out. I get freaked out a little bit more than you do, definitely. There have definitely been times where I have left camp in the middle of the night. Camps that we have taken 2 cars up to, things like that. This situation, I was not nervous one bit. The only piece of it that made me personally nervous was you were nervous.
And we've had a decent sized wolf pass in front of us at 50 feet.
With both kids.
Mary was barely, I don't even think she was a full year.
She was 6 months. She was on my back.
Yeah. And I had Nell on my right side holding my hand as we're walking. Mm-hmm. And all I could do is drop her hand, take my left hand, push her back, and draw out at the same time with my 45. Because here's a wolf.
Yeah.
And we know we have them, but here's a wolf. And I'm like thinking back, I've got an infant, my wife, and a toddler. So
and the wolf was between us and the Jeep.
Yeah. We were walking back from checking trail cams, and I'm like, I'm on the offensive now.
And that time was less nerving than Saturday. This is the only time in 12 plus years I have ever seen you not... It was a feeling of not knowing what's out there and what exactly to do.
I literally felt at the moment of whatever I saw, I felt like I had no control over the situation. I've been in front of moose, I've been in front of wolves, I've been in front of bears, I've passed by cougars. All those times, no matter what's going on, I felt like I'm in control. I have some form of control. I know I have my sidearm. I know I have a communication device.
This was
I have something to control my situation and control my outcome. That point in time, my 45 felt like a BB gun.
It was different. And I think that we have basically continued to talk about it since Saturday. It's Monday evening now. We've talked to 4 different people at this point since Saturday and given them the full story from start to finish. And normally when we have something unusual happen in the woods, which we honestly have had quite a bit of, there's always like that reasonable doubt of it could be this, it could be that, it could be this, it could be so and so. There's always that reasonable doubt of all these things it could be, and you have a very definite, it's one of these 2 things. This situation, we don't have that. Going with before I start, I think we have ruled out the possibility of a car going over the cliff.
Yeah.
We've ruled that completely out.
Yeah.
So that is good. That is honestly very, very good. If we're talking a bear aspect, while that is a possibility, and probably a strong possibility, 3 major key outliers with that problem, with it being a bear. The chocolate was left completely untouched. The chair was completely untouched. There was no sign at that moment that there was anything in camp. That is super weird.
Especially for being gone for pretty much a half hour.
Right. And for the time of the year, how hard it's been, everything like that. That is unusual. That would not happen with the bear, typically. We didn't hear this bear whatsoever. There was not a single rustling noise at all. No stick breaking, no breathing aspects, no huffing, literally nothing. No birds, anything. And we didn't smell anything. And a bear, especially this time of the year, would not smell great. You would smell that.
It would be pungent.
It would be pungent. You would smell it. For how close we were to the situation, we would have smelled it. And those 3 are very large outliers for it to rule out a bear. Correct?
Yeah. So pretty much, if this is the tree, what I had seen would have been about this high to me. Here's the side of the tree. I'd be back where the camera is by about 30 feet. I either saw this, but sticking out about 6 to 8 inches, and about a foot to a foot and a half here. Or it was a shoulder like this. Something leaning up against the back of that tree, and this is what I'm seeing. The color is the part that's got me completely confused, and the height. At 4.5, 5 feet tall, it'd be a moose, but mooses come back like this. They don't go like this. And it's too tall for a deer. Deer stands about this tall, 9 times out of 10. Mm-hmm. And the color. It was like a silvery blonde. Now, the only time I've ever seen a color like that, mountain goat. Well, mountain goats aren't much taller than this railing at 36, 38 inches tall. Yeah. So I can automatically rule that out, and they don't have anything that comes back like this.
Yeah.
So what am I looking at? I have no idea. It's a completely weird situation, and we can't just not rule everything out.
Of the 4 people we have talked to, 2 have been Bigfooters, 2 have been non-Bigfooters. Yeah. Not necessarily believers. They don't care that we do it, but they're not necessarily believers. All 4 of those people have said, we don't know what you saw. We don't know what you had happen. And again, we should have also prefaced this at the beginning. I don't know that whatever we heard is the same thing as what we saw. We don't know that their 2 are related. We're assuming they are because it just happened in such succession, but we don't know that those 2 incidences are together either. Which makes it, if it was 2 separate incidences,
what was the first
even
one?
Wilder.
What's the first and what's the second?
Right.
If they are connected, are we dealing with a bear? What are we dealing with? The other side of it is a bear would have shown itself or made itself present somehow.
Right.
There was a cougar hanging onto the side of that tree. Wrong color for a cougar no matter what. Even in high beam headlights. Because you will see them in that tannish color. The problem we have is the color, the size of what I saw, and the fact there was nothing.
There was no noise, not a smell, not a growl, nothing. And again, we're not saying it is Bigfoot. We're not saying it is bear. We're not saying it is a mountain goat. We're not saying, we don't know. We legitimately do not know what happened. All I know is
I've never had that feeling like that.
And I can vouch for the last 12 plus years that I've never seen him that unnerved. We've had a few different words floating out over the last 3 days, and none of them really seem to fit, because it's not like you weren't going to do action if something happened, but it definitely was an out of character. You did not feel comfortable, and it was, we are getting out of the woods now. I don't care that it's now after 11 o'clock and we're going to be rolling in after midnight to your parents' house. We're leaving, and we're leaving right now.
And like I stated, I've looked at moose at 30 yards. I've looked at wolves at 50 feet. I've been around these animals.
Mm-hmm. This was weird.
This was not anywhere close to any of those incidences where I've had to focus on it.
And we've had potential Bigfoot activity before. Things that we've softly discussed on this channel before. Things like, well before we had kids up in the woods, I let out a mimic of a Bigfoot call, and before my call had been echoed off the ridges, it came out from behind me much more powerful than I had let out. Like, the weird stuff in the woods happens. We get it. And this was different. This felt like we needed to get out of there. So, I don't know what else to say other than
make up a conclusion how you want to see. For
not,
those of you that are investigators that do it well, that are in that area, if you feel like you want to go and poke the hornet's nest,
message us. We'll give you
I'll
locations.
give you the coordinates. I'll give you the information. I'll give you satellite imagery so you can get an idea of what you're dealing with.
Yeah.
But do not go in expecting to have anything close to what we had happen. And expect the worst of running into a bear.
Absolutely.
So take bear spray, or if you carry a sidearm, carry your most powerful sidearm.
Yeah. And that's why we felt comfortable doing what we were doing, because we did have your 45 plus your 9, my 9. I mean, we were not ill prepared to be in bear country, in our opinion. We just weren't comfortable with that current specific situation.
Yeah, this was something that was totally unprovoked, totally out of the blue, and even on some of the craziest encounters we've had Bigfoot-wise, this by far blows every single one of those out of the waters with how I reacted, how I felt, and how it played out.
This felt, whatever it was, Bigfoot, bear, mountain goat, whatever the heck conclusion drawn, this felt aggressive specifically towards us, and we were not comfortable with that.
No, not that level, because like I said, I literally felt like my 45 was a BB gun to whatever I was dealing with at 30 feet.
And those of you that personally know us, have been in the woods with us, understand, our dynamics, which we can't really express well, which is why we decided to do a video instead of a write-up. We probably will still do a write-up as well, but this seemed a little bit more...
For those of you that have been in the woods with me, I go into the darkest, deepest places, and I come out joyful. This was not that time.
No. In fact, we stopped about halfway down out of the woods. We weren't quite yet to the highway, and I thought, I think I should offer to drive. But I thought that probably was, you needed the control of being able to drive.
I needed the control of driving to get me back to where I needed to be, because I was so far out of my mind of what happened, because it was so out of the norm. It had no rhyme or reason for what happened.
This was the first time I know that we've encountered multiple people through Bigfoot research, through talking to people in the woods, to talking to just people in general. This was the first time I could understand why people would say something like, I will not go back to that area. We're not that way. We will go back.
No, I'm going back. I'm going back with gear.
We intend to put some trail cameras up just to see if we can catch bear activity, maybe get something on audio, see if maybe those what we are presuming as rocks rolling down a hill or something, rocks being we don't really know, seeing if we can get that on an audio recorder or something.
We're going to deploy trail cams so that we can see what's up there. And then my skeptic friend who we just talked to Sunday night when we got back, him and I are going to go out at the beginning of the bear season and whatnot, and we're going to retrieve those trail cams, pull them down for the winter, stay the night, hunt and fish, and see if we can pull something. If we can pull something to validate our experience or the consensus of whatever we finally have come to by that time, I hope we can grab it. If I can grab that it was unknown, that it's definitely not a bear, it's not a known animal, great.
And it may just be a lifelong mystery to us what happened.
Yeah, and there's that.
But we are going to do the best of our ability to go back. The fortunate, unfortunate part is it is far enough away that it's definitely a planned trip. It's not something that on a Friday night we're going to say, hey, let's Johnny on the spot over to this spot. Like, that doesn't work for this particular location. And it would have been 2.5 hours out of our way to have gone up the next day and looked around, looked for tracks, anything like that. Simply because it was the opposite direction of home, and we would have had our kids with us, and it just would not have worked to have gone back up the next day. So that's why we're going to be rearranging some of our gear and trying to put some up there to just see what can happen.
And when we go back, I will go with the full force of the gear we have. It'll be thermal, it'll be night vision, it'll be audio, it'll be our trail cam systems.
Right.
I plan on going back and grabbing every bit of detail I can. I'm going to take accurate pictures. I'm going to do the best to recreate what I saw.
Right.
This will become one of our investigations that will pan out over time, being an in-depth look whenever we can get to that way, because
to try to figure out what happened.
Because one of the things is driving up this, it reminds us of being on the west side of the Cascade Mountains in Washington State.
And you said that when we were driving up.
The ground cover, the tree size, everything driving up reminds me of the western Cascade Mountains of Washington State. That thick, deep undergrowth with big trees around it. That's this area to a T.
Yeah.
And I now have a spot I am going to push to go back. And
it may only be once a year that we're able to do it.
If I go for 2 nights, we can gather a lot of information. And I have a couple people that I plan on specifically asking to come every time that are either Bigfoot researchers,
dedicated outdoorsmen,
or are just skeptics or toe the line. I'm taking them out there because if we can get something to happen and we can get more people to be there, the better we can determine what happened.
And it may not. Like, we're not saying, come out with us and we're going to get you Bigfoot activity. Like, that is not. We're just trying to get our available resources to us, the people that we know personally that do similar things to we do. We hunt, we fish, we go looking for Bigfoot. All of those things. Trying to get those people that we know, we trust, that know us, have been in the woods with us before, to help us figure out what the hell happened. I mean, I don't know how else to put it out there. I'm not saying at all what happened. We don't know, and that's the freakiest part.
And for those of you that we talked to at the Big Sky Bigfoot Conference, that follow us, that talk to us through PMs or whatever, if you are interested in helping figure this out and you want to take your time to go do some footwork,
let us
and
know.
You need to know what you need to take, I will give you a list of equipment that you should have on you at all times to look.
If you want, I mean, or just go out and have experiences like we do.
Yeah.
I mean, we went out with the intention of just camping. We were not trying to research anything. We were not trying to do anything other than
just camp.
Just camp. Just spend, have it ended a perfect date. You know, we had gone to the gun range. We had gone fishing. We were just relaxing. It was a relaxed day. We did not want to feel like we had to have all this stuff and do all this stuff. Like, it was truly just a relaxed day. And it ended with us leaving the woods at midnight.
In a hurry.
In a hurry, as safe as we could with everything going on. So, let us know what you guys think. Other
comments, PMs, whatever.
Other options of what you think it could be that we could see. And I mean, we have explored every single avenue, from a person living in the mountains to a mountain goat to an antelope. I mean, okay, the battery died on our video, but let us know what you think.